Somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it.
JLY. So white women are the problem, apparently. I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of white guys have noticed. And beyond that, what I found today, the conversation that we are going to be following today, white women are almost achieving full sentience. They're almost beginning to question, was it something I did wrong? Was it me? Maybe it was me. Maybe I was the problem. They're not fully there yet. I don't want you guys to get excited. I don't want you guys to start thinking, don't start believing in love again and none of that gay shit. No. But I just want you to understand that they are making attempts to achieve full sentience. It's almost cute. It's almost cute. They're trying to be like real people. And I found this conversation. Actually, we're going to continue a conversation. The other day, I did a live stream about a liberal woman who went undercover to date right-wing conservative men. And it was interesting. It had its moments.
CNN's Donny O'Sullivan got in the cage with former UFC star turned podcaster Jake Shields to explore the manosphere and why exactly it's so popular.
They speak liberal, they have liberal friends, and then they go online and they are a white supremacist.
This is Vera Papasova. She spent the last year dating far-right men in New York City for a story for Cosmopolitan magazine.
They're the most insecure men I've ever sat down with. It was really difficult to have some of these dates because they were so insecure, because they don't really know who they are and they don't know how to figure that out.
Now, we already covered this conversation and it was good. It was a good time. You know, a good time was had by all. Now, there was you know how people do when they have a project, a book, a movie, something like that they want to push. They tend to make the media circuit. You know, they do the rounds, and she is doing the rounds. I noticed this lady on a podcast with a woman called Matchmaker Maria. She has a YouTube channel called Ask a Matchmaker. So it's right in the title, you know, who she is and what she does. I don't really understand. I don't know much about this particular woman, like what are her matchmaking credentials. But none of that actually matters now, does it? But this lady, this Russian lady with the icy platinum blonde hair, she went undercover in the manosphere, allegedly. And so she had a conversation. It's really a two-parter, and I maybe we'll cover both parts of it. But the second half of it is really the part where it got a little bit more introspective. But let's just take a quick snapshot of the first part.
You went undercover?
Yes. So I spent 2024 undercover on a conservative dating app, going on dates with far-right men, like the spectrum of far right, to profile them, to basically understand what creates that belief system.
Welcome to the Ask a Matchmaker pod. I'm your host, Matchmaker Maria. And while I have you, if you are a new listener and you're not doing this yet, I need you to go to Instagram and follow me. Enough. Matchmaker Maria.
All right, so that's Maria. She makes matches. She puts people together. She does it. I want to skip ahead just a bit because this isn't really the part of the show that I wanted to cover, but there's some little interesting pieces in here. Let's just jump ahead somewhere random.
So these are questions I had. And what these guys knew about me was I come from a liberal background, but I'm open to different perspectives because basically I was like, you know, the Democrats are all acting like fucking losers right now, which is true. I did feel that way. No one was excited about the election. There was no energy on the left. So I was looking at the right because MAGA was lit. And I was like, why are you guys so...
MAGA was lit. And the men on the left, they just weren't lit anymore. And, you know, women can't help but to follow their nature. Women follow what's hot. Women follow the crowd. Women follow winners. And the energy, most importantly, women follow the energy of the moment. Wherever the energy is going, women want to be a part of it. They want to be in the mix of it. They want to be on the quote right side of things. And now she's like, well, the men on the left, they're obviously losers, right? They've been losers for a while, but they were able to hold on to the image and all. And now, because of the online world and this new media landscape where you can't really ignore the right wing voices and arguments because they go viral authentically, we got the juice now. And now the women are looking over there.
So excited. What's going on here?
Right.
So this was kind of, and I was like, I am open to new perspectives, but I'm coming from a liberal background. So I'm not totally aligned with you, but I want to learn.
Okay.
Big time with the $5 super chat. What creates the belief system where white women throw their men and their own children under the bus to show what a great white ally they are? You know what? That comes up. And that's actually why I'm going to focus more on the second half of their conversation, because this is a two-parter. They dropped like two 40-plus minute videos. It was basically a one conversation broken in half. And so the second half of it, they actually do speak to that. They don't speak to it openly and honestly, but they are aware of a resentment building up. And that's what made me want to cover this. I got up today and I swear to God, I was on autopilot this morning. I actually drove into work and I didn't realize we had a holiday. Like that's how locked in I was. I was just straight on autopilot. I got all the way to work and I couldn't clock in. And I was like, oh, shoot, what the hell's going on? And then, oh, yeah, we're on a holiday. And so now we're here doing live streams. But anyway, I was totally off subject. But we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. Now that I have time, we're definitely going to get to that because I was watching this morning as I was getting ready for work and I was driving up. I was listening to this conversation and I'm like, damn, they have some deep moments, but it's like getting right up to the edge of the water and then still dying of thirst.
So they had the opportunity to basically evangelize me, which is like how they were taking it, which is exciting for them. So they're like, let me teach you. So I could ask them, what does it mean to be a conservative woman? Okay. And they would ask me like, I mean, they barely asked me any questions. So they were just like telling me stuff.
Yeah, asking women questions doesn't really get you the results that you want. But it's a two-parter, though. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? You have to ask questions eventually. But you realize, and this is kind of like, red pill dating strategy and all that. The answers to the questions are almost meaningless. It doesn't necessarily matter what the answers are. Because she's going to lie. She's not necessarily going to be frank and honest about, real things, right? So you're kind of judging her based on other things besides the answers to her questions. And then really, really, and I think what's happening, because, you're dating from the right-wing perspective, he's auditioning you. He's not auditioning for you. He's auditioning you. Like, this is the deal. This is what I'm after. This is what I think. You either get with it or you don't. Very little monkey dancing need happen here. And I think when you do the traditional dating, which is, dating is a very liberal thing to begin with. But when you do all that, it winds up becoming monkey dancing.
Ask them, what does it mean to be a conservative woman? Okay. And they would ask me like, I mean, they barely asked me any questions. So they were just like telling me stuff. So submissive literally means to a lot of these guys, and this is extreme to me. It felt extreme to me, but they would say they talked about training their wives and wives having obedience. They talked about
like physical.
Yes.
All right. I just realized something because I actually did watch a good chunk of this before we fired up the show here. There is a large white woman to the left of the attractive platinum blonde hair girl, I don't really recall the large white woman to the left saying anything, but she does this moo cow face over and over again. It's just like
they talked about training their wives and wives having obedience.
I can feel you mooing across the internet. I can feel you mooing. You look like a milking cow too. Jesus Christ! Why are you here? You're not helping the image.
They
at
talked
all.
about
Like physical?
yes, and they talked about like you're not supposed to talk back. Like it's not feminine. Like you're supposed to like do what your husband says. So they're looking for someone. And this is like, to me, this sounds like fantasy. I don't know women like this.
I don't
So
either.
and that might just be because I'm in a bubble, but they're looking for someone in a year to a year and a half. You're planning to get married. So you're looking for your husband. That's why you're dating. So they're dating.
Right. And I think that is an interesting point. As much as liberal women, well, not liberal, but women in general, you would hear women complain about men. They're not serious. They don't want to commit. You do have a segment of men out there who are perfectly fine. They're willing to, put their head in the vice. They're willing to put their hot dog in the blender because they want marriage and happiness and all that. And even still, they have, a list of requirements. They're not just going to jump in it blindly. And so they want to know that you're willing to play the game as well.
With a goal to get married.
We love goal-oriented men.
And they're looking for someone who, if you're working now, they want you to quit your job and focus on raising children. Homeschooling is huge.
Homeschooling.
All of them wanted homeschooling.
What?
Speaking of homeschooling, shout out to Saint Valoy with the 199 super chat. Happy Easter, Hood. Happy Easter to everyone out there. He is risen. He is risen. Technically, this is a bigger day than Christmas. If you really want to get into what the religion means, the death and resurrection is way more important than the birth of a child. It's way more magical. I saw Mel Gibson talking to Joe Rogan about his faith and all that. And he was talking about like Buddha and all the other figures. He's like, nobody else comes back. Buddha doesn't do that. Only Jesus does that. Jesus is the only one that comes back. It's his day. But shout out to Saint Valoy. Thank y'all for pulling up. Hit that like button. Thank you so much for supporting the show, guys.
Count it up, count it up. Let's count all the money. Count it up, count it up.
Oh,
So are they dating teachers?
well, that's what I asked them. I was like, okay, so, and both my parents are very educated. They have 3 PhDs between them, and like I grew up with education being like a huge core value.
Right.
So I'm aware that you have to have a higher education to be like a preschool and elementary school teacher because you're literally a child psychologist.
Right.
So
You do not need a child psychology degree to educate children. I think your child psychology degrees right now are why the children are so poorly educated. The kids learned better. They were better behaved. They actually knew more. High school children from like 50, 60 years ago had a better understanding of the world upon graduation than a modern high schooler does right now. And that was before all the teachers went to go get advanced doctorate degrees and mind fuckery.
I was like, okay, so what's the curriculum if we're homeschooling together? Let's say we get married.
And you're asking this in earnest.
Yeah, I'm asking this like I'm not making fun of them.
Yeah.
Because also what's interesting is they all had like their version of dating horror stories, which is like, I went on a date with a liberal woman with blue hair.
No, they
And
didn't.
yeah, they hate women with blue hair.
I don't think liberal women really appreciate this. And this is something I think that the women in this little conversation here, it gets brought to the surface though, and that's what made this worthy of discussion. But one of the easiest things to make a man a conservative right-wing person is dealing with a liberal woman. everything everything becomes crystal clear. Why this can't work, why it would never work with any woman like her, it becomes crystal clear. It will set you off on a different path once you really start to question what just happened to you.
They hate also pink hair.
There's
Huge
no
turn
way
off.
a blue-haired or a pink-haired woman went on a date with them.
I mean, not
I don't
through that
believe it.
dating app.
That's what I'm saying.
But these guys live in
Wow.
New York City. They present as liberal because they don't want to lose their liberal friends. And then they go online and they're a neo-Nazi online, or like they're a white supremacist online.
Now, she has a habit of calling all these guys neo-Nazis and white supremacists and all that. And it just doesn't really hold up. There's, even in her describing her dates and all that, very few actual racist expressions or opinions got mentioned. Like if she heard a guy say anything overtly racist, she damn sure did a poor job of telling everybody else about it.
This dating app. So they're talking about politics is the common denominator. Like, yeah, liberal white women are the worst. And they think they found like this unicorn because, like you said, they look at me, they're attracted to me, and I'm open to their point of view. Amazing. So then they then ask me, like, it must be horrible dating these emasculated men
With
of New
their
York
pronouns.
City. And they kept talking about like emasculated men, like you know, and the Democratic Party is so emasculating, and liberal men are so feminine.
All true, by the way, all true. Shout out to my girl, Georgia. I'm glad you just popped up in the chat, Georgia. I wanted to thank you for the $10 Venmo donation the other day. I don't always notice the Venmos when they come in. I noticed them after the fact because, you know, when you're doing a live stream, you're kind of locked in a little bubble here. And then you go back in the real world and you notice all the things that you didn't notice before. But big shout out to my girl, Georgia. You always make me think of peaches. I love some peaches. Peaches. That Mario movie was dope. I love the Mario movie. Shout out to my girl, Georgia, with the $10 Venmo donation. Y'all, be like Georgia, y'all. Hit that super chat for me. Smash the super chat button.
Hulk! Smash! Smash you! You make Hulk angry! You not like Hulk angry! Hulk no like fighting girls.
Big time with the $10 super chat. He says, what woman would accept a man who says, you know what? Because our child is white, they should learn to put themselves second. What parent would accept that? It's totally off subject for this show, but I do plan on having a double header today. You know, I might take a nap or something and come back rejuvenated. But I want to talk about the Austin Metcalf thing. You know, they had like the dueling protest yesterday, and it was a bit of a flop. And the father called in, and he's always been like, I don't want to make this a racial thing. I'm not trying to get involved in none of that. And I understand his position. I don't want to criticize him too harshly about that, but that sentiment of white people learning to put themselves second or last, even, it's a very liberal white feeling. It's way more common than we would like to imagine. And it's also a thing that, you know, it's motivating a lot of white guys being pushed to the right because they're tired of being told that it's all their fault and they're the ones who should be fixing everything by suffering the most.
And then I was like, okay, focus. Like, you're trying to understand this person. So like, who cares? Who gives a shit what he says about me?
Where would they take you?
Very nice, normal place, like normal, good date spots.
Did anyone ever show up with like a red hat or like a gun?
No, but one of them told me an interesting story, like about his MAGA hat, and he was basically explaining, like, you know, how he was talking about how excited he was for Trump to win. I pretty much knew over the summer before the election they were going to win because they were so much more excited to vote and save America than like the Democrats were excited to vote and save America. Like, just their energy about it was like winning. And this guy was like, yeah, I can't wait to wear my MAGA hat. It's so empowering. And I was like, oh, really? Why? You know, people, you know, and he was like, just the way people interpret it, it's not what it means. And I was like, okay, tell me more. And he basically was like, yeah, if you come to like a MAGA rally and you say I'm a Democrat, but I'm like interested, people will be like welcoming and tell you like whatever you want to know. But if you wear a MAGA hat and you're just like sitting on the streets of New York, people will tell you to fuck yourself. And I actually was like, yeah, that's true. I've done that. Like,
What did I just say? You're pushing the men away romantically, politically, socially. Guys don't even want to help women in the streets anymore. A woman could be getting beat up Mel Gibson style by a pack of N-words, and most guys will be like, I wonder what she did to make all those guys angry.
I've literally told a guy in a MAGA hat.
But you didn't say that on the date.
No, I didn't say that. But I was like, yeah, there were these moments where they made points. Like that's you have a good, yes, like that's true. That's true. I have called out people for just.
I recently met someone who was interviewing in our office to become a client. And, he told us right ahead, like, I'm very conservative. And, to me, it's like he lives in DC. And I was like, oh, I don't know what that means yet. Like, or maybe he's Republican. Like I said, we certainly have Republican clients. We have plenty of Republican matches that want to meet them. This is not.
Yeah.
And when I say Republican, I'm talking more like Mitt Romney Republican.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Mitt Romney. That's Massachusetts. I'm from Massachusetts.
And you are?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I grew up in Boston.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And I don't know, maybe I have like Republican face, so I don't think he realizes like, oh, I'm a liberal, but okay. And he then goes into like, even during the pandemic, the way they treated me, because I was conservative. And I was like, what am I missing here? And I asked like that, I'm like, what am I missing here? How would anyone know you're conservative during the pandemic? And he goes, well, I wasn't wearing a mask. And I was like, in 2020 or in 2021? And he goes,
doesn't matter. The masking thing was a red flag. That pandemic season was a time of awakening for a lot of people. You realize just how much you detest almost half of the rest of the country. Because I had little experiences like that too, like getting carded and people asking you to put a mask on, and I'm like, why are you all being so dumb? Anyway, I'm not even going to get into it all, the efficacy argument and all that. We're not going to do that, but yeah, we remember. We'll never forget either.
Was in the summer of 2020. And I said, I don't know why this came out of my mouth, but it just did.
Mm-hmm.
I said, did you not wear a mask because you wanted someone to engage with you because maybe you were feeling lonely and, even negative engagement is engagement?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I want that? Why would I want someone to bother me about my mask? This is just weird, liberal psychoanalyzation. Shout out to Big Time with the $5 super chat. Liberal women hate pew-pews, but expect men to die for them. I mean, Valar Margulis, bro, all men must do it. That's literally the best line from Game of Thrones. All men must die. And I accept that, but I ain't dying for none of these hoes. It's the duality of man. You know what I mean? All men must die, but I won't die for none of these bitches. I promise you that. Shout out to Big Time supporting the show. Thank y'all so much. Pull up closer, hit that like button. We are just getting started. We didn't even get to the good part yet.
I need that money.
And he was like, go fuck yourself. And he just like hung up the call.
Whoa.
But I do believe that if you are, and then maybe this is a bias, but I think that some people who don't wear masks during a certain period in the pandemic, just like some people who might wear a MAGA hat outside of that conservative rally environment, I think they do want to be engaged with.
Yeah, it's about engagement. It's about engagement because also something that I really learned, and one of my big insight, I had a lot of big insights from my investigation, but it's the rejection of their belief system by everyone else that makes them feel isolated, makes them seek out these online communities where they get radicalized, and their politics are emotional. So like,
I think this is a great projection argument, their politics being emotional. the liberal politics, the world of liberal politics is overwhelmingly emotional. You know, feed the children, save the women, got to help the foreigners, right? People are dying halfway around the world in a country you'll never ever visit. It's really the left wing that embodies the emotional landscape of politics. The right wing, and especially the men and these new right wing men, very rational, very logical, very transactional. What have you done for me lately? Why should I support you? What's in it for me? None of these are emotional positions.
Whatever their personal failures are that they don't know how to grow from, like they're lacking like self-growth tools. And I'm not like forgiving that. I'm just simply stating like they are so insecure and they don't feel good about themselves. And these like the red pill content gives them a reason for why they feel bad without making it about their emotions. Because
red pill content doesn't give you the reasons, it explains the reasons. You already felt bad. You already knew you didn't like these things. You didn't understand why they were happening. You didn't understand why everybody got so weird. And so you don't get your initial reasoning from red pill content. You get deeper explanation from red pill content. You actually, what you do learn uniquely maybe from red pill content is argumentation, because feeling and resentment and rejection, that doesn't express where you're coming from and why you act the way you act, why you reject the things you reject, why you resent what you resent. And if you listen to this type of content long enough, you just have a ready-made ammo box full of arguments, reasons, and examples of why you're right and everybody else is kind of gay and weird. And red pill content just gives you deeper understanding. But the feeling was always there. It's sort of like the Matrix, right? Neo was looking for Morpheus way before Morpheus ever trained him to be Neo. The feeling was always there.
They're not like emotionally literate. They're not expressing their emotions like verbally. Like they don't know how to, that's not a way that they've been taught to communicate. We don't condition men. Like traditional masculinity is not about expressing how you.
Oh, and speaking of expressing how you feel, shout out to It Is What It Is with the $2 super chat. Sup, bish? Right back at you, bro. Pull up a chair. We locking in.
You feel?
Yeah.
It's like it's very limited. It's like you can express how you feel through like violence, anger, or like stoicism. So it's like you just like, just don't like you could. And so they, because like in a liberal bubble like New York City, we are simply going to reject someone, or I mean, I think in general, if someone were to just outwardly say like, I'm a neo-Nazi, like you would reject them because that's violent.
Well, there's
most of these guys are not neo-Nazis. There are very few, if any, neo-Nazis roaming New York City. New York City, if you are genuinely of the neo-Nazi inclination, you would hate New York City with a passion. It would make you physically ill. You might wind up in jail because you just lashed out one day. You'd leave New York City for your own comfort, safety, and sanity. There are very few neo-Nazis who are just roaming the streets of New York, let alone forming little fight clubs and having regular meetings and shit. Do you like pay dues?
Social consequence.
Yes, and that's why they don't disclose their political beliefs to their friends. They don't want to lose their friends, so they hide how they feel. Their political beliefs are a way for them. They hate themselves, is what I felt. I felt.
You know, that's a great point. That is a great point. Free Zone with the $5 super chat. He says, how did she gain all this insight in a few dates from a handful of men? 1 year, she built close relationships where dude told you their secrets, right? Now, theoretically, she was like pseudo-thotting, right? She was half thotting. I'm not gonna say that she was out here sleeping with all these men. You know, you You didn't get to know them intimately. You just had a date or two with most guys, right? I don't think that's enough to learn a guy. But, you know, of course, women like to talk and project, and, you know, women build fantastical castles in the sky. And this whole show is basically sky castle building right there. That's really what it boils down to, man. But shout out to my man Free Zone Lou with the $5 super chat. Hit that like button, y'all. We're getting into the heart of the conversation just now. We're going to start the part 2 up in a moment, but before we jump to part 2, there's some other things I want to talk about first.
I need that money.
Extreme, almost like they felt like trauma victims to me without identifying that way. And I like hesitate to say that because I don't feel bad for them, and they are.
Why is it so hard for everyone to feel bad for men? Men are the one group of people where you're almost not allowed to feel bad for men. The only time you're allowed to feel bad for men is if something like obviously horrible happened to him. Like, I mean, a leg lost, you know, an arm lost, like he's carrying his dead child across the field or something. Other than that, women, all the sympathy that we gin up on a casual level, it's reserved for women. But we never ever want to extend sympathy to men unless, you know, a nuclear bomb went off in his basement.
Is what I felt. I felt extreme, almost like they felt like trauma victims to me without identifying that way. And I like hesitate to say that because I don't feel bad for them, and they are victimizing themselves is really what I was feeling. They feel like victims.
Ironic.
They feel like victims, they hate themselves, and so it comes out, they project it out. So
now it's not just that they feel like victims, they hate themselves, but and you know, she acknowledged this. I probably skipped past that part on this clip here, but she acknowledges to some degree that feminism, liberal white women, by nature, just by definition, they have been attacking the very heart and soul of the white male identity. You know, they're fighting the patriarchy. They say white men have been in this dominating, oppressive position for all this time. So everything they do, by definition, by genetic imprint, everything they do has to take a shot at white men. And now, oh my God, the white men, they don't like me anymore. Why do they think I'm the bad guy? Well, because you've been the bad guy.
And they are victimizing themselves is really what I was feeling. They feel like victims.
Ironic.
They feel like victims, they hate themselves, and so it comes out, they project it out. So,
and again, I don't think it's self-hate. I think it's responding to a world that hates yourself. Like I don't hate myself, you hate myself. Myself is actually okay. It's just a regular average self, right? I'm good with myself. It's you who has a problem with myself. Shout out to Free Zone with the $10 super chat. He says, I hate women that talk like this. Not just the words, but the way she is actually speaking. She sounds like a stroke victim. Very lazy, community-like activity. She has the blonde lady. She has a very obnoxious, almost sneering, like looking down her nose approach. I think her disdain for the men that she's talking to, it's coming out in just random conversation, like it's oozing out of her pores. Her superiority complex, it's oozing out of her pores right now. And that, I think maybe that's what you're picking up on. That's kind of what I'm taking from it. She has just a weird, obnoxious, like, I went to school, so I know better than you. I got straight A's on all of my report cards, so I'm a better person than you kind of vibe. Like, you know, best student, teacher's pet kind of vibes. Anyway, that's just my take on it. That's just my take. But shout out to Free Zone Lou with the $10 super chat. Do me a favor, y'all. Smash that super chat button for me.
Hulk! Smash! Smash you! You make Hulk angry! You not like Hulk angry! Hulk no like fighting girls.
And shout out to Deacon Dave. He's gifted somebody with a membership to the church. We have a new gifted membership in the church. Thank you so much. Shout out to Deacon Dave. Shout out to the new church member, whoever you may be. Welcome to the church. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Everyone is welcome in the church of misogyny, as long as you're a little misogynistic.
Get it again. Okay, I'm going to say it again. I come in the name of Jesus. Repeat it after me, bitch. I come in the name of Jesus by the power of the Holy Spirit.
Welcome to the church, y'all.
So the more hateful their politics are, that's a reflection of how much they hate themselves. They're not aware enough to understand that. And that's why they're afraid to lose their friends. So then they pretend that they're still liberal so they can keep their friends because they really care about social connection. They don't say how they're really feeling because they don't know. And then they go online and they go to these independent media guys who basically like fake empower how they feel because they're like, it's like a different way to express being a victim is saying, oh, I'm emasculated. You're not emasculated. You feel like a victim of something that has no name.
I have so many follow-up questions for you.
Sure.
You feel like a victim of something that has no name. You feel like a victim of something that has no name. You know, ironically, the young men are trending more and more to a religious conservative faith. And maybe they don't have a name for the thing that's victimizing them, but they do have a name for the solution. Shout out to It Is What It Is with the $5 super chat. Jesus died for our sins today, but the hoes hate Jesus, right? The name of the solution is Jesus, man. These hoes hate Jesus because Jesus tells them the truth. Jesus tells them the real, and they just hate hearing that. And they hate Jesus by extension. And that's also kind of low key where if you read between the lines in this liberal women just dating conservative men, there's usually some level of religious anchoring with a conservative man, whether or not he's a full-on, church member, or he's just kind of morally grounded in the religious view. To deal with the right-leaning men is to deal with men who are at least morally guided by faith. They don't get their morals from the modern world. And modern women have been rejecting Christian morals for a long, long time. It's basically the point of feminism. This is why feminism at its heart is basically witchcraft. It's hoes doing magic because they hate God.
Hey, that's it for this week's Ask a Matchmaker. Stay tuned next week for...
We ain't got to wait till next week. We're going to come back to this in just a minute, but let's take a look at liberal women. This is a piece that came out recently. CNN, actually around the same time this lady's conversation about dating dropped, CNN dropped a snippet of a piece that should come out in the next couple of weeks exploring political extremism, right? And the CNN article mostly counted political extremism as something that happens on the right, with the exception of Louis Mangione, who is man of the year for a lot of liberal women.
Hilarious to see these millionaire media pundits on TV clutching their pearls about someone standing a murderer when this is the United States of America, as if we don't lionize criminals, as if we don't have, we don't stand murderers of all sorts and we give them Netflix shows. There's a huge disconnect between the narratives and angles the sort of mainstream media pushes and what the American public feels. And
on the one hand, women say they hate toxic masculinity, men are too violent, men are too aggressive. But Louis Mangione is basically, he's a good-looking killer, and all those other rules are out the window now. He's their guy now. It's just a weird duality of woman. Shout out to my man Kenley with the $4.99 super chat. I wonder if she has any men interview her. These women don't know enough to know men don't talk like this. You gotta question a lot of the media presentations because she's telling us one side of these dates. If you ask the men that she dated, I bet you they tell you how horrible she was and all that. You can only take her word so far. This is why we got to take the content and put a completely different spin on it, because women almost never say what they mean they say in the first initial encounter. They almost never just directly express themselves. So you always got to take it with a grain of salt, man. Shout out to my man Kenley with the $4.99.
Good women are dead. Evil bitches, rise up!
And you see that in moments like this. And I can tell you, I saw the biggest audience growth that I've ever seen, because people were like, oh, some journalist is actually speaking to the anger that we feel.
The women who gather outside court in New York.
So you're going to see women, especially, that feel like, oh my God, right? Like, here's this man who's revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's smart. He's a person that seems this morally good man.
This is a liberal woman attempting to describe the framework for the ideal liberal man. Let's run that back again.
Women, especially, that feel like, oh my God, right? Like, here's this man who's revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's smart. He's a person that seems this morally good man.
What makes you think he's morally good because he assassinated some corporate guy? Women's concept of morals literally start at their vagina,
which is hard to find.
Yeah, I just realized women will literally date an assassin before they swipe right on me. That's where we are. I'm sure you wouldn't like to be compared to a Trump supporter, but some of how people cannot understand why people have sympathies for Mangione strikes me as the same as a lot of media not understanding why people support Trump.
I totally agree.
It's because a lot of people are just really, really desperate.
They want somebody to take on the system.
You're talking about women when you're describing all these different people, especially, the feelings of Mangione. You're talking about how women, liberal women especially, see the world. And even with liberal women, they can't help but to embrace toxic masculinity in some level, because there is no toxic masculinity. There is just acts of masculinity. Sometimes, dude might go too far. Sometimes it's all right, but it's just masculinity. And even in their liberal framework, they have to try to put all these other spins on it to describe something that's very base and primal at its heart. An attractive murderer turns you on because you're a woman. You just can't get around it. It is what it is. And getting back to the point of it all, why would liberal women even be concerned about what Trump voters, what right-wing men think about? Because secretly, deep down, there isn't a lot of raw desire to be found among average liberal men. I mean, maybe there's, good looking, because good looking people exist all over the spectrum, right? But when it really comes down to it, does the good looking metrosexual really work it for you the way the good looking, cowboy type, you know what I mean? Like, do you really want a guy who's attractive and gay? Or do you want a guy who's just like good looking and reliable? And that's kind of the weird breakdown between the left and the right. You got a lot of pretty homosexuals on the left, and I don't think the women are really finding a good place to land among the beautiful men.
Previously on Ask a Matchmaker. So you went undercover on a dating app.
I spent 2024 undercover on a conservative dating app, going on dates with far-right men to basically understand what creates that belief system.
As a professional matchmaker in New York,
Yes.
you know, some of my clients are Republican. What does it mean to be conservative in 2024, 2025?
I mean, it's a spectrum. Like, what does it mean to be liberal in 2024? Like, you can go from kind of like moderate to far left. It's like moderate to far right. And
so this is obviously the second half here. We're going to focus in on this a little bit more. I'm not really going to skip much of this because there are a lot of interesting things said in here we're going to get right into.
You would reject them because that's violent.
Well, there's also
hateful.
a social consequence.
Yes. And that's why they don't disclose their political beliefs to their friends. They don't want to lose their friends. So they hide how they feel. Their political beliefs are a way for them. They hate themselves is what I felt. I felt extreme, almost like they felt like trauma victims to me without identifying that way. And I like hesitate to say that because I don't feel bad for them. And they are victimizing themselves is really what I was feeling. They feel like victims.
Ironic.
They feel like victims. They hate themselves. And so it comes out, they project it out. So the more hateful their politics are, that's a reflection of how much they hate themselves. They're not aware enough to understand that. And that's why they're afraid to lose their friends. So then they pretend that they're still liberal so they can keep their friends because they really care about social connection. They don't say how they're really feeling because they don't know. And then they go online and they go to these independent media.
It's not that men don't know how they're really feeling, but just like earlier, you know, you cursed out a dude just for wearing a MAGA hat. You don't respect their feelings. Men's feelings generally aren't respected unless, you know, you're expressing something homosexual or something effeminate. But when you just have typical masculine complaints, then nobody wants to hear that. Everybody tells you to shut up.
Guys who basically like fake empower how they feel because they're like, it's like a different way to express being a victim is saying, oh, I'm emasculated. You're not emasculated. You feel like a victim of something that has no name because and so
I have so many follow-up questions for you.
Sure. And so then it's basically like the more isolated they are, the more hateful self-hate they feel, the more they hate everybody else, the more they go online to feel like validated and affirmed by these online groups. So really the biggest insight I had was, and I went to a neo-Nazi meeting with one of these guys.
Speaking of the neo-Nazi meetings, shout out to my man Pax Americana. He asked, is it bad that I usually date smash liberal women? It's sort of my preference, not gonna lie, LMAO. Pax Americana is our resident white nationalist here. And I think it says more about them because, you know, you're just a guy smashing women. There's not really much more I would read into that. But for the women, why are allegedly liberal women so into getting pounded out by right-wing Nazis? I'm going to let you guys answer that in your own mind. This is a clean family show.
On a first date?
No, not on a first date. But
would have been crazy.
Like he just like brought me because he thought I might be. He shouldn't have.
There are neo-Nazi meetings in Manhattan.
Yeah, it was not in Manhattan, but it was in New York. It was in one of the boroughs.
Wow.
And
we don't know anything.
Was it in Williamsburg? Do they have neo-Nazi meetings in Williamsburg? Because, you know, there's sketchy looking parts of Williamsburg. It looks like the place, you know, a lot of big rundown factory looking type of buildings. This is a great place to have a neo-Nazi meeting.
I feel so stupid right
they
now.
spent this meeting complaining about their wives and girlfriends.
And that's how you know it wasn't a real neo-Nazi meeting. That's how you know she's cat. It's all cat. The actual far right are not going to waste their time complaining about their women. Generally speaking, far right meetings, I don't think that's the place you go to talk about how your wife is not really doing her job. You know, no mention of, you know, the niggers, the Jews, the gay, no mention of any of the typical far right enemy groups. It's just women. That's how you know it's not an actual neo-Nazi meeting. It's just regular guys in New York City who are sick of you bitches.
So what I realized was you feel like you need to have this extreme violent point of view to justify having relationship problems. It's like, you don't actually need to be a neo-Nazi to bitch about your girlfriend, but they need to feel masculine about the talk.
I'm pretty sure that's not exactly why you become a neo-Nazi. And you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and saying embracing full-on neonism is going to kind of help the problem with the ladies. It will open you up to a whole new avenue of poon.
Talking about even relationships, I think. Like,
so they weren't talking about their hate for someone who, you know.
No, I mean, maybe they do that at their other meetings, but the one that I was present for was like an hour, and it was like one of the two guys, like one of the first people who started talking was talking about how he was having trouble with his girlfriend who was still working. Like, there was some relationship problem, and they all started like comforting him and being like, yeah, I've been through that. And they talked about the obedience and the training.
Jesse's face needs to have its own like camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could see it. But so it was interesting, obviously, and horrible, because they basically were just teaching him how to have an abusive relationship. But
what
like,
were they saying to him?
I mean, they talked about like,
anytime men start describing what they want in a relationship, what they would like in exchange for all of their duties as a man in a relationship, it's always abusive and disgusting. And oh my God, I can't believe you think that. This is not the 50s anymore. Men are not allowed to want things. You just have to exist and do things.
Emotional punishment as a way to like punish her for.
And guys, question. We've been at this for roughly an hour, a little under an hour if you minus the music in the beginning. We've been commenting on this video this whole time. Have the cow said any actual people words yet? Really? Has the cow said has the cow said one people word? You're just there with the cow face. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand why there's a cow here.
For disagreeing with you. Like, for example, she would go out with her friends when he didn't want her to. And then they were like, okay, like they were teaching him like narcissistic abuse cycles. So they would say, okay, if she goes out with her friends and she comes back, don't speak to her. Like, don't speak to her for 3
Literally
days.
narcissism. Yeah.
Yeah. It's teaching and but reward her.
You know what's happening? A lot of dating pickup. Yes, Carmen, the lady on the end with the cow print sweater. That's what you call that, right? That's cow print, right? I'm not like a fashion guy. I don't know all the proper terms for things, but it's a cow print sweater. And she's cow shaped in a cow print sweater. But anyway. Made me lose my train of thought, Carmen.
He comes back, don't speak to her. Like, don't speak to her for 3 days.
Literally narcissism.
Oh, yeah. A lot of red pill, like, dating advice and strategies it's literally taking female manipulation and using it against them. That's literally what a lot of the red pill manipulation dating strategies boil down to, is understanding female game and then just turning the tables on her. That's really what's happening here.
Yeah.
It's teaching and but reward her in 3 days. You can start rewarding her if she's done enough, like she's done enough nice things for you. Like, has she been cooking?
Oh man.
And they're describing this conservative, like ideal feminine woman who's submissive to the man's needs.
I'm literally, I don't even know. My brain is broken right now.
They just want to hang out with each
want to
other.
understand.
Yes,
They don't want a wife. They don't want like.
Oh, the cow can speak. All right, it's a special cow.
I ask a few questions.
Yes.
Because I want to understand like where this comes from. So some of these are yes or no questions, but like, did some of the men that you went out with, did their moms work, or were they stay-at-home moms?
I would say like half and half.
Okay. Did some of these men that you went out?
Always got to drag it back to mom. What if mom was wrong? What if mom was a hoe? Why you always got to drag it back to
Not
mom?
with were they raised in a religion, or is this something that we're picking up as part of the identity?
Mostly like casual religion.
Okay.
So like for example, I think it's that the desire for social connection. Like one of them, I went to church on a date with one guy, and I asked him like, is church a big part of your life? And he said he didn't really consider it a huge part of his life growing up, but his mom died from cancer when he was in high school, and her church friends were the ones who started cooking for him and his dad like when his mom died. So it was the church community that he knows is taking care of his family when his mom died. So he associates those family values with church. And churches provide community for people.
SKC says this week on What If Mom Was Wrong, featuring Hoodservative. Don't tempt me, SKC. I'll do it. I would really do it. We know your mom was wrong. Niggas know your mama, all right? You had a whole bit about that. There's a whole a line of comedy about that very thing, man. Niggas know your mama, all right?
People, that's like the best part of being part of like a religious community. It's a true community, hopefully.
Yeah. And then my last question here is like, did the men that you went out with, did they have friends outside of this community? Of the neo-Nazi conservative red pill?
So most of their friends were not parts of these, like in real life, they had liberal friends that they are masking their beliefs around. So they like code switch. They know exactly what to say to sound liberal. Like one of these guys.
Yeah, red pill men, we know how to blend in. You got to get in, get the money, get out. It's like being in the Matrix, Any one of these people could be an agent, so you have to always be on guard.
Owns a restaurant in the Lower East Side. He's going to be employing all the people that someone super far right should hate, right? So like the two genders only people. You're definitely going to have like non-binary people working in a restaurant in the Lower East Side. Like queer people are everywhere. And so when I was asking him,
the UK Supreme Court just ruled that there are only two genders. So there's a lot of people kind of having a meltdown about that. It's not a bad idea. Our Supreme Court needs to get in on that too. We need a gender case in front of the Supreme Court. Let's just settle it once and for all. You can't really presidential decree the gender thing. I need the Supreme Court once and for all to eradicate transgenders. If the Supreme Court detransitions you, then you can't blame me. All right. I'm not the bad guy if the Supreme Court doesn't acknowledge your gender. If you get misgendered by Clarence Thomas, well, that's just the fucking law, and it is what it is.
Oh, do your political beliefs affect how you treat your employees? No, I love my gay employees. So a lot of their beliefs are like, in theory, because on paper, it would, they're hating groups and hating this way of organizing people.
Because it's not actually hate. It's a little bit more logical and thoughtful than merely hate. This is why he can think what he thinks, and he can still hire a couple of gay guys to work at his restaurant, because that's where gay guys fit into the ecosystem.
People would explain why they feel so bad, if that makes sense. It's like they've picked up these political beliefs, like it feels like very recently, because it only took a few questions for me to be able to start finding cracks in what they think they believe and what they're actually doing in real life. Like they're around all the people they think they hate, and they don't hate those people individually, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What would you say to a woman in New York who is currently listening to this podcast, likely leans liberal, or maybe she's independent, wants to date men who, I don't know, to share necessarily political affiliation, but certainly like the same moral compass? How would she avoid meeting these sort of men, or what kind of questions could she ask in the first 2 dates to make sure that it's not one of these maskers?
I don't even know if that's the right question because
I love the thought right here. And that long pause, that little moment of silence, you can attribute this entire live stream to that moment of silence right there. Because I noticed something in that moment. It was a moment of actual introspection. And this is what I meant when I said she is attempting to achieve complete sentience, right? Her spelunking in the right wing, far right online dating world, she found something inside of it that won't go away. There's a truth in there that she can't shake, because at a certain point, maybe it was in the other clip and we skipped it, she did acknowledge a lot of these guys, when she went on dates and talked to them about stuff, they did have a couple of good points.
Sure that it's not one of these maskers.
I don't even know if that's the right question because I found that even the guys who I've dated in the past who were politically liberal, they had some of these insecurities. So I think a lot of my exes prepared me, like, and I'm like very grateful for all my relationships, and
damn, how many exes and relationships do you have? Jesus Christ. I mean, even on this freeze frame right now, you look like a lot of dicks hit you in the face over the years. Like, this is an ill freeze frame. I just do this totally by accident, but you do have like, you look like you've been hit in the face with a lot of uncircumcised penis. Just upside down, so just left, right, uppercuts. A couple of them hit you in the back of the head. You didn't even know where it came from. How many exes do you have? Jesus Christ.
Some of these insecurities. So I think a lot of my exes prepared me, like, and I'm like very grateful for all my relationships, and I aligned with them politically, but they still had these insecurities about like my career, the fact that I'm very purpose driven and they weren't. They maybe had high paying jobs, or maybe they didn't make as much money as they thought. But there's something that's bigger than the politics. And there is, I think, an overall masking and like an identity crisis with young men because it's the most extreme because liberal white women are the most hated people.
Yeah. And what you're finding, I think what you're bumping into is even liberal men, they can only be so liberal. They're mostly being liberal to get along with pretty girls. But conservatism, it kind of starts in your balls, right? It just like emanates from the core of your testicles. And because those guys have balls too, they can only be so liberal. It's the liberal women who will go as far as imagination can take them. But the men, even the liberal men, is like, yeah, I don't know if this is even going to work for me at all. Might as well just be gay if you're going to be that liberal.
When you're talking about white supremacist men, they hate white liberal women the most because we've betrayed this white heteropatriarchy. So we, the rest of society is like being a.
And here it is. White women have betrayed white men. Shout out to a big time with the 5 ball. He says, my wife didn't align with me politically until we had 2 children. Then all of a sudden, everything I said made sense, right? Now, I want you to pair that, and shout out to Big Time. Thank you for the super chat. But I want you to pair that with Carmen's shock. She's in awe right now. Yes, Carmen, conservatism starts in your balls, right? Look at what Big Time just said. His wife didn't align with him politically until he had 2 children. He literally took the emanation of his balls and implanted it in his wife, and his conservative seed took root in his wife. It starts in your balls, Carmen. I have no cleaner way to put it, because I don't want to put it in a cleaner way. I want you to understand it as raw and dirty as I put it. Conservatism comes from your testicular core. There's no other way around it. Shout out to
Good women are dead. Evil bitches, rise up!
A white liberal white woman, you're basically a white man, right? Like white feminism sucks, and we're basically white men. But white men, they are like, oh, you've betrayed us because you're just pointing the finger at us as the problem. And they're not articulating it that way, but what they feel is,
no, white women articulate it that way, though. That's exactly the problem. Feminism and basically all of liberalism by extension, it exists to recorrect the white man's creation of modern civilization. They figure a white man made civilization, but he enslaved some niggas, he killed some Indians, he did God knows what to the Asians over there in Asia. And now we got to undo all that. We got to correct all that. All that, everybody gets some freebies except for the white man because, you know, he built civilization and he was mean to the brown people. That is literally how white liberal women approach politics and global affairs and history and whatnot.
white men, but white men, they are like, oh, you've betrayed us because you're just pointing the finger at us as the problem. And they're not articulating it that way, but what they feel is, for the centuries that we've all been living with, we've been living with supremacy. And you look at like, and they're obsessed with like white family units, and what these guys are obsessed with creating like healthy, positive white identity, because now because of woke, being a white man is just bad. And they can't escape that. They don't know how to create any other kind of identity.
They're already creating an identity. And it's really not creating an identity so much as rediscovering a traditional identity. And that's inherently problematic, because the traditional white male identity is the traditional enemy for liberalism. Like, when you really look back across the grand span of time, liberalism has basically sought to neuter the traditional white male identity. Now, I was tweeting about this early today. Everybody's like afraid of this concept of Christian nationalism. Like, the whole liberal world order they'll press the nuke before they let Christian nationalism take over again. And the thing is, Christian nationalism was the de facto state of the Western world up until like World War II. It was only until World War II did the communists finally get enough strength and momentum to pull the plug on Christian nationalism. Because up until like the buildup between, like, let's say the Bolsheviks in Russia up until World War II, in a lot of ways you can look at it as the loss. This was the beginning of the end of the great monarchies. And not only the great monarchies, but after World War II, that was the end of the great colonies, right? So the monarchies were lost, the colonies were lost, and now we just have diversity and gay disco 24/7. And it's not accidental. It's because the white man's bad, right?
Now because of woke, being a white man is just bad. And they can't escape that. They don't know how to create any other kind of identity. Because if the whole world works for you, you've never had to change how you identify. You've never had to create your own narrative. So they really struggle with having their own, like, they don't even know how to create their own self-concept. So basically, it's like, for centuries, we've been living with supremacy. They've been living with supremacy. And now, and recently, we've started creating tools for all these different groups to start creating empowering identities, empowering narratives, based on whatever oppressive systems like they've been forced to live with for centuries. And we've basically and white women, we still get something, because we get to say like, well, we still were oppressed and we only just got the right to vote. So we're creating our own identity and we have these new.
Yeah, you get to exist as privileged victims. And as long as you keep pushing the white man in front of the diversity bus, the bus doesn't have to hit you. It's a very evil game to play, right? You get to be the white man's prime beneficiary for all of his allegedly dastardly deeds, right? You get to benefit from all of the piles of bodies. You get to benefit from all the beatings and all the slavery. But if you just push the white man in front of the bus and let diversity crush him, all is forgiven, right? All is forgiven, right? And this is why there's war.
Fuck you. War.
New tools to empower ourselves, and now we have bank accounts. Now we get to have jobs. But if you're a white guy, there are no new tools for you. You're stuck in the 50s because we said you don't need anything. You have everything. You're the most privileged. So we kind of like fucked up in the sense that everyone is way more emotionally advanced out of necessity from Trump.
Look how she described it. She acknowledges that we, whoever she means by we, I'm going to assume to put herself and white feminism in there, but she kind of acknowledges that we fucked up. But then she made it like, well, we didn't give the white man emotional tools so he can cope with being at the bottom of the pyramid he built.
There are no new tools for you. You're stuck in the 50s because we said you don't need anything. You have everything. You're the most privileged. So we kind of like fucked up in the sense that everyone is way more emotionally advanced out of necessity from trauma, from these oppressive systems. And we basically have, in a sense, left them behind emotionally. Not that it's anyone else's job to like help them grow.
See, they think white men have an emotional problem, right? You guys just haven't been emotionally educated, right? You don't understand your feelings. See, like if you went to college, you would understand why the blacks get to stab your kid in the chest and then raise money and make music videos about it. You haven't went to college yet, so you don't understand why you just have to take that.
But we just have not created, from what I've seen, and I come from like a mental health background, like, and I'm looking at this like, what did I miss? Like I cover mental health as like a journalist. I've created these tools for young people. And I was really talking to these guys, like, what did I miss that I thought I was including everybody? And these guys, their emotions are like, I am so forgotten.
Is that an emotion or an observation, right? Like it's an emotion to say that I feel some kind of way about things, right? It's an observation to notice that the people around me never talk to me. The people around me only say negative things about me. That's not a feeling. That's an observation. That's called having eyes and ears. Shout out to Big Time with the $10 super chat. Only one religion in the world brags about unaliving Jesus. So who is really afraid of Christian nationalism? What type of men wrote the Constitution? Freemasons wrote the Constitution, brother.
Hey, you get the bag and fumble it. I get the bag and flip it and tumble it. Straight off the lot, 300 cash, and the car came with a blunt in it.
Shout out to Big Time, man.
So
hit that like button, y'all.
Excluded because I'm a bad person, like, and I can never be good. And they don't have, we haven't created the right, and I mean, it's their job to create those tools. But I think that's an extreme version. But like that exists, I think, a lot of men left the Democratic Party this past election because they did feel emasculated by the Democratic Party. And trying to understand what that meant was really interesting because I don't know if the right question is how do you avoid it? I think the right, like for going back to your initial question of like, if you're dating, how do you avoid that masking? I think there's a general insecurity among men because we haven't created we haven't created new definitions and narratives of what masculinity looks like.
But you have created new definitions and narratives of what masculinity looks like. You have. and we reject it because all of your new masculine characters are kind of effeminate. They're kind of moist. They're dripping moist. Some of them are just outright gay. And, you know, most guys just don't want to buy that. So we know what it is you want us to be. And I'd rather not. And more importantly, we don't want it for our sons, right? Like, listen, if you're listening to the show, I've looked at my demographics. Most of the guys, most of the people watching my show are over 30. Your ideas of masculinity are pretty much locked in, especially once you hit like 35 and 40. So it's not even just about me at this point. I don't want what you're selling for my sons or my daughters for that matter, right? I don't want my daughters to be doing a podcast with 1,000 cockface wondering what's wrong with men. Women with 1,000 cock stare have no place in the conversation about what's wrong with men. And I would never want my daughter to be cursed with that future. I don't want my daughter to carry the burden of 1,000 cocks. And that's all feminism offers, is burdens and cocks.
And so like the most traditional form of like masculinity historically that we know here in America is like a white supremacist.
Shout out to all the white supremacists of color. It's a new thing that happened when Trump started running the first time around. But apparently to be a man is to be a white supremacist. And I'll be your white supremacist Huckleberry if that's what it takes. You're going to respect me like the white man. Either or. Like either you respect me like you respect the white man, or we just going to have to move some furniture around until we come to an agreement. Shout out to True Hype with the 5-ball. He says, isn't it amazing how these folks don't understand something? And instead of trying to figure it out, they just make shit up. They want men to be women. Yeah, it's either you become a white supremacist or you become a gay man or just transition into a woman. There isn't a lot of respectable space in the middle. And this is why, you know, to be the black guy making these points is extra interesting. And this is why I lean into the racial stuff and the white supremacy stuff and all that, because I don't see it as purely as a white racial argument. On the surface, yeah, you can make that point, but we're also talking about like civilization and modernity and all that. And in effect, what you're after is to retard civilization by, you know, putting black women in charge. Fuck no, I can never go with that. I will vote for the racist white man before I vote for a black BBW. I swear to God. Don't test me, all right? None of you bitches, don't you dare test me. I will vote for the racist white man 1,000,000 times in a row before I vote for one BBW. I just can't do it. I just can't. It's my balls. When they ask me why, it's balls. I don't really have much more need to explain it further than that. Why? Balls. That's why. Balls. Shout out to Pax Americana with the 20 ball. He says, white men are done creating. Bro, stop. Put the beer down. Put the beer down, bro. Stop. Elon is up here building rocket ships. We could go to Mars next month, all right? Put the beer down. Look, you put the beer down and we put our pimp hands in the air, all right? How about that, all right? White man and black man. We put the beer down and we put the pimp hands in the air. This is the only way to save America, is to collectively smack our bitches up. Really, I keep it simple. I don't have a grand political treatise. You know, we need not have this platonic educational system where you have to learn on high from really smart old men. No, listen, if we just collectively smack our bitches up just a little bit, you don't got to break jaws, just a little bit, you know? A lot of things would fall back in line. You know, the trains would instantly run on time. The garbage would get collected. The children would smile and play. You could leave bicycles on the lawn. So many things would collectively just fall back in line. But no.
Aspiring to be patriarchs like what white men have, that isn't freedom. That isn't going to help anybody. It's certainly not going to help black people.
Shout out to my man Pax Americana with the 20 ball.
Hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad.
This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology.
Time has expired.
My life was threatened. Thank you.
Hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad, hoes mad.
I think there's a general insecurity among men because we haven't created we haven't created new definitions and narratives of what masculinity looks like. And so like the most traditional form of like masculinity historically that we know here in America is like a white supremacist, if you're looking at identity politics. So it's like we need new versions of masculinity, and we can't. I really went into this being like, maybe like I can fix them. Like maybe I can teach them. But actually they have to be incentivized.
You can't teach me. There is nothing I want to learn from you. You're going to read to me from your 1,000-cock journal?
To start like a self-growth process. And so I unfortunately, like, I don't have an answer, because I think what I found is like, we can't be the ones that fix them. And I think this is like a bigger problem, like culturally.
I think it's also speaking to like the self-advocacy, like what you said, it's not our job to fix that sort of culture to.
What is your job then? As a woman, what is your job? Shout out to Pax Americana with the $10 super chat. I'm really at the point where I kind of just want to watch it burn. Yeah.
You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Don't let it burn, Pax. Don't let it burn. I offer you all the black women in the ghetto.
A lot of people seem to not understand me.
Science proves that the black woman is God. We're not just saying that.
And the black and Latino woman, they manifested themselves out of dark matter energy. All right.
I believe the black woman is God.
Black woman, God. I don't believe God, no man. I believe God, a black woman.
The black woman is God.
But my number one subject matter is the black woman is God. That's first and foremost.
Black woman is God.
The black woman is still God.
You're God, black woman.
The black woman is God. She is the creator. She is the sustainer. She is the provider. She is the first teacher of the children. She is everything to the black race.
But don't get it wrong. I am still a white man's whore.
Don't go, Pax. Don't go. The black women still love you. I'm sorry. I'm having way too much fun over here. I'm enjoying this too much. Oh my God. Big Tom with the fireball. He said the first story in the Bible is creation. God creates a home for his children. Why would any woman hate this? You got to question God, bro. Don't ask me. Go argue with God, man. God made women the way they are. I'm just trying to find the path back into the garden, bro. God said I got to drag this hoe along with me. That's the trick. I can't get back into the garden unless I drag her along with me. Shout out to Big Time with the 5 ball.
We need our weed. I don't wear it, but we need it.
Learn more and unpack and become more emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
I have a book coming out in a couple of weeks.
Congrats.
Thanks. And in the book, I actually try to promote this other version of masculinity called wholesome masculinity. And it's something that kind of I've been talking about for a few years, and now it's solidified in the book. But it was like, to me, a few examples of that is like, fictionally, Ted Lasso, right? Where you see a person.
Ted Lasso. You know what? And I heard her say this earlier today. I know Ted Lasso is like, I don't know, a TV show or something like that. Ted Lasso is their masculinity guy. What is a Ted Lasso? We got to take a look at their masculinity guy.
Oi, mate, there's you. I believe it is. Wicked. You coaching football. You are a legend for doing something so stupid. I mean, it's mental. They're going to murder you.
This is a bit of news from the other side of the Atlantic. AFC Richmond announced the hiring of their new manager, American football coach Ted Lasso.
Okay. There's probably a reason why I haven't watched this show yet. It's not the kind of white guys that make me watch their television show. You know, I just, because binge watching good TV is kind of the benefit of the modern era right now. You don't have to sit in front of your television at 8 o'clock on a Thursday night. You can just wait for the season to end and then just go back and rewatch it all over the weekend. I have just completed the entire season of Better Call Saul. I gotta tell you, between Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, those were some interesting white men. You know, you had Heisenberg himself. Even Jesse had layers to him. Mike was just great. You know, they were just interesting characters, interesting white men. Hell, even Gail, the little effeminate meth cook that was gonna take over at the end for Fring, he was an interesting character, right? What the hell is a Ted Lasso?
An American who's now in charge of a football club, despite possessing very little knowledge of the game. I know that AFC Richmond is going to give you everything they got.
And you know what? And speaking of Better Call Saul, Kim was my bitch. I really did like Kim. As female characters go, Kim was a gangster with her shit, bro. Kim held it down. It was when Kim left Saul that I really kind of just, there was nothing good to really say about the character anymore. Because, you know, there's like an arc to the character in the show. And it's like he was trying to be a good guy kind of in the beginning. And then he dragged Kim down into like being a scammer and all that kind of shit. And then when she quit, he had nothing left, but he just went full piece of shit. And it was amazing to watch. The way it all ended was hell of a crash out. But like I said, those are interesting characters, right? They have flaws, they have depth and all that. What the hell is a Ted Lasso?
Win or lose. Or tie. Right, y'all do ties here. You see that? He must be from England, yeah? Wales. Is that another country? Yes and no. How many countries are in this country? 4.
Like it or not, Richmond.
So they took a Southern gentleman type of white guy and made a fish out of water comedy. And that's your guy? Anyway, fucking Ted.
And I don't know if you ever watched Ted Lasso. It's
Man,
a really great
love
show.
Ted Lasso.
But what you see with Ted Lasso is that in the beginning, he's like kind of hesitant about therapy.
Mm-hmm.
He has some trauma. You know, his father committed suicide when he was a teenager. And now he's kind of like dealing with that while trying to help his players be the best version of themselves. That's his words.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a fictional. But then I do use like real life examples of what I'm detecting as wholesome masculinity.
And look, this is why the Ted Lasso thing is it's a dead giveaway. It's a sign. You are signaling to me your rejection of anything that's desirable about masculinity. You're making this masculinity that a woman could fold up and put in her purse, right?
Stanley Tucci, Pedro Pascal, Dev Patel, Tom Holland. To me, these are versions.
Didn't Tom Holland like get a train ran on him in one of his recent movies? I didn't watch it, obviously, but I'm pretty sure Tom Holland had some violent gay sex scene or something like that in a movie. Actually, I did see a clip. Was it Tom Holland and Zendaya and some other guy? And they were like all kissing in a throuple, and then Zendaya just pulled back and watched the dudes be gay.
Versions of wholesome masculinity, Doug Emhoff,
Totally.
Tim
Doug,
Walls.
Tim.
I also would add that
Tim Walls. Those are your guys. Those are your masculine liberal archetype. And like I said, it's not that you haven't created a new masculinity for men to latch onto. You have, and you're not gonna sell it to any more men. You got the handful of weak-minded, effeminate liberal. That's actually a new word now. Effibral. One who possessing the qualities of being effeminate and liberal. Yeah, we just made a new word called Webster. But yeah, effeminate liberal men. That's all you're gonna get with that type of masculinity sale.
It's really important, I think, for women for the liberal women that you were
Carmen, 2 F's, please. 2 F's. Effeminate has 2 F's. Effibral should have 2 F's. But otherwise, I'm going with Carmen spelling. David, that's not how you spell. No, that's not how you do it. Carmen pretty much got it.
Asking about, like, we have to judging men, and like, what about us is rejecting things that we don't like. Like, there's a lot of like the version of feminism that hates men as a collective, like that. I think. Well, I just want to add, like, look, yes, it's important to identify.
All right, Pax about you just sound greedy. Pax with the $5 says, I am now accepting Black women and mixed women applicants. Getting a little ahead of yourself there, buddy.
A lot of people seem to not understand.
No, not gonna give it to you. Not doing it, Pat. Pat, you got to return.
When I die, I'ma go to Snow Bunny heaven. Snow.
We got to get you back to your traditional roots, Pax.
Internalized misogyny do we have that is like learned from us competing with men, like in workspaces or whatever, and taking on some of those like toxic masculine traits? Like, I think hating men is like a version of experiencing men who hate women, for example. Like, you know what I mean?
Mic check. We're having some audio issues here. Are we having audio issues? Are we crackling? Are we popping? All right, give me a second here. I'm going to try to reset and come back. All right, mic check. Let's get that clip back up.
I know what you mean.
So I think there's also like, and I think my question to you, my follow-up question, or in my mind, I'm wondering, okay, if I wanted a Ted Lasso, am I the person that would attract that person?
Mm-hmm.
So like, what about me might be something that I need to work on?
Right. I love that. That's
like,
a great
what is
question.
wholesome femininity? And also, like, if you're looking, like, to me, I realized the relation. I mean, I had to self-reflect a lot because they knew exactly what they were looking for, and I didn't know what I was looking for in dating. Obviously, it wasn't a neo-Nazi, but like, I went into dating very open-minded my whole life, and I'm like a very go with the flow person.
Yeah,
which I've learned is like not great. Like, you should know what your emotional needs are.
If you asked me what you should be looking for, I would like the go with the flow. I'm hyper intentional.
Well, yeah, I've learned that going with the flow is like wrong. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
And but I've learned that because I've had to, like, as they tell me what they're looking for in the homeschooling and whatever, I'm in my mind answering, not that they ever asked me what I was looking for, but I would answer my own. I would tell myself, what am I looking for? And I think I've learned, and also I was really thinking about like submissive and dominant. Like, that was like so jarring to me every time I had to think about like, oh, you want someone who's going to be like a second-class citizen to you in your own home. So
No, I want a wife, technically. You keep denigrating the job, makes me think you're not really going to do the job well, but the word you're looking for is wife. Second-class citizen, that's something that feminists made up. Drew Beats with the foul ball. He says, damn, dudes had to listen to this all night to hit. They didn't even get to hit. That's the worst part. She was capping the whole time. She never had, none of these guys ever had a chance. She was just doing a straight undercover mission. Which, and somebody typed this in the chat earlier, it does kind of double down on the point. There is no purpose to dating a liberal woman. There's no point to it. She just proved the point. There's no point in dating a liberal woman. And it's even worse if you're like right-leaning and dating a liberal woman. At best, you got to smash and have put no weight on it, put no value in it at all, because it's not going to help you do anything.
So,
but it's also kind of sexual too. I mean, I feel like that's what I'm hearing.
It's totally sexual oppression because they were very uncomfortable with sex, actually, as like even a concept. Like, it was hard for them to be like comfortable. They were uncomfortable in their bodies. That was their body. Their main body language was very uncomfortable in their bodies. Like, I'm comfortable in my body. And I felt, and, you know, as an interviewer, when you're interviewing people, you have to make people feel comfortable. And I had to work on that. But so
much of what you're saying, like, okay, here's what I'm understanding. And it's okay if whoever's listening or watching this does not have the same perception. These specific men who feel like they're victims, and they might not say that, but are kind of victimizing themselves into these subgroups that are very misogynistic. And
they're such victims that they will say the Democratic Party is victimizing them.
Right.
But really, they feel like victims. Yes.
In that subset, right? And then you're also telling us, well, they were really uncomfortable in their skin.
Very.
And in my mind,
so uncomfortable in their bodies. It was so
and in my mind, hearing this, it's like, okay, well, how do we feel attractive? Like, what are the things that we know as social cues that are attractive? And of course, as women, we have been raised in this idea of, like, you know, the media that we consume and the environments that we've been put in as children until we became adults, of like what is considered the ideal body type, even if it's bought, right? Not necessarily genetic lottery. So you have all these things. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, well, if a man feels insecure in his body, in my mind, again, this is just my perception, the only system that he has to blame is the patriarchy, because it's the patriarchy that has created the ideal.
It's not the patriarchy that is attacking men. It's not the patriarchy that's giving men's money away to all these other groups and all these other interests. It's not the patriarchy that is putting men, white men especially, at the bottom. we haven't had much of a patriarchy in this country for a long time, but this need to blame the patriarchy for things that women are obviously doing is all projection.
This is just my perception. The only
Fog of war
person, the
projection.
only system that he has to blame is the patriarchy, because it's the patriarchy that has created the ideal standard of a woman, the ideal standard of a man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whereas like for women, I've always felt like the first thing that women look for in a man is, are you a creep? And how safe am I?
Well, also if you think about like the patriarchy, and I think it is important, like I think it depends.
And then you know what? Great point. Pax Americana with the 20 ball. He says, chat, keep in mind, she specifically went to a dating app where these men segregated themselves, right? So these men who you argue they're so bad and they're toxic, even is the word people love to throw around. And, you know, they have such bad intent. They're not actively trying to impose themselves or their ideas on anyone. These guys aren't like, they're not at your local library doing conservative reading hour for little children. It's actually the liberals and the right, I mean, the left wing, who is always on a warpath, who is always imposing itself on people. Conservative men aren't going undercover to find out why liberal women are thoughts, right? You don't really have to go undercover to find out that anyway, but it's a weird transgression that's happening. It's like projecting yourself as the victim when you kind of went out of your way to find people who you already hated and then basically misrepresent them to the world. Because I really have no belief that you found yourself at a neo-Nazi meeting somewhere outside of Manhattan and the outer boroughs. No. It's hard for me to believe that. You were at it was a group full of angry white hipsters in Williamsburg, and they were all tired because no matter what you do, white women just aren't happy.
What do you even think the patriarchy is? For example, like someone might be listening to that and they might be like, well, I don't know what that means. And I will add, if your role as the man is to always be the leader and to always be so dominant in these like very rigid ways, how insane is it to put the responsibility of a woman's sexuality on a man? Like that's, you know, I remember when I was working at I worked at Teen Vogue for a long time, and
I have no idea what that's supposed to mean, to put the responsibility of a woman's sexuality on a man. I have no idea what you could possibly mean by that. I think she's going to try to explain it, but we'll wait.
I worked on a lot of the sex education content with sex educators and human sexuality experts. And I learned that the majority of young men who have sex for the first time in high school did not want to have sex. So it's the social pressure. We think it's just girls who are pressured to have sex for the first time, but it's everybody. And so so if you think about, you know, that pressure of like, you're a man, your job to be masculine is to have sex. And now also, because you're supposed to be dominant, you're supposed to somehow magically know how to like introduce sexuality to a woman.
And this is where the world of liberalism, especially as we're reaching what feels like, you know, liberalism's ultimate final stage, it has a problem fundamentally of erasing the natural bonds between men and women, and we all become atomized consumers in a bland corporate environment. And what she's describing is actually supposed to be a journey between two young adults who are locked in holy matrimony. And so that sexual exploration, that learning things, and that, what's wrong, what works and what doesn't work, that's supposed to be something that you explore together as youth. It's not supposed to be something that you stumble through life until your 40s looking for, the right fit. And that's just a liberal problem that she's trying to work out in her mind, where religion has kind of worked out a way to approach the problem.
Or a girl, whatever, however you want to say that. Like that is, if you think about it, that is such an insane and unrealistic expectation. Because what do you know about like the female body? Like what, you know what I mean? Like you don't know anything. So how are you actually supposed to be confident about those experiences when you're never taught what that is, but you're expected to be dominant and masculine? So now you're just presenting like that, and you're having to manipulate women to think that you're that guy, because deep down you know you're not that guy, because that guy doesn't exist, because you can't magically just like be that person. That doesn't exist. Just like to just be so submissive and to let someone else introduce you to your own sexuality, that doesn't make sense either, because you should know your own body. You should be able to say and advocate for what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And that's really what I was thinking about when I was registering how uncomfortable they were with in their bodies, because
you out here with a group of conservative men having hoe thoughts. That's really the problem. You were having 1,000 cock thoughts. That's all that's going on here. You had no business in that environment trying to date those men. You were 1,000 cocks too late.
I was aware. I'm like, I'm in a dating setting. Could I ever hook up with this guy?
Could you?
No.
Let me ask you one last question.
Yes.
In this whole investigation, minus the neo-Nazi meeting, were there any moments on the dates where you felt unsafe or uneasy?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. There were many unsafe feeling moments. One of them I wrote about, but many of them I didn't. I mean, one guy was very, some of them were not emotionally, they couldn't manage their emotions. So the second you brought up like politics, they would like pretty much lose their shit. So like one guy would start like, he had like two personalities basically. Like he was like 6'4". He's like this massive dude. And he'd be like really soft spoken and like pretty shy. And I thought it was so cute for like someone so massive, like someone so huge to be this like gentle giant. Just like painting the picture of this character. Like I was just thinking to myself, like, this is so cute, like a shy, huge man.
Yeah.
And then, I'm there to ask about politics. And so I started asking like, because I think it was like the date was timed around the first debate. It was like Biden and Trump.
Right.
So I tried to bring that up. And the second I did that, his whole body language changed. His leg starts shaking.
Stop it.
His hands grabbed the table.
What?
To like basically like the edges of the table. And I could tell that he was physically trying to like stay calm. You know what I mean? And he also didn't, because he like raised his voice, and like the people at the tables next to us were like looking.
This is good too, because wait until she tells you like how it really played out. Like she's gonna explain it a little better in a second. And I'm just like, I can't believe this is how women tell stories about men. This is why men are sick of you bitches, by the way, because you always make us out to be these monsters.
Looking at us. And so that's an example of when I had to de-escalate someone he was like starting to like yell. Like he was raising his voice to the point of like everyone around could hear everything he was saying. He reminded me actually of when he reminded me of when I was like sitting with like a war vet who had PTSD from Iraq, who was having like a trauma flashback. That is how unmanaged this guy I was sitting with. Like his emotions were so unmanaged. And I'm not comparing. I have so much respect for people who have sacrificed their lives for
PTSD is PTSD though.
Yes. And so and that's kind of what initially made me think about like the trauma connection, because I was like, why is this guy like this? Why is politics the trigger? And it was really the question that made him initially like this.
Now, mind you, You're on this date attempting to do journalism. So you're asking questions, you're probing, you're trying to learn things that you maybe wouldn't otherwise be trying to learn on a first date. You're effectively probing for triggers. Now you found a trigger.
I was asking him like, he was telling me that he made a lot of lists in the pandemic about like his favorite desserts in the city.
Oh.
And he would like go and eat alone. I know.
It's like a sweet start.
I know. And I thought to myself, this is so cute. And then I was like, what other lists do you make? Innocent question. And the next thing he said was that he makes lists about lies liberal white women tell about Donald Trump. And I was like, this escalated quickly. So then I was like, what? And I'm working. Like, he's on a date, but I want to know what's on that list.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He's on a date, but you're working. And then part of your job is to find out what his triggers are.
So I'm like what?
What have I ever said about Donald Trump that's been a lie?
Yeah, like
that I don't have video evidence of him doing it on camera.
So I was like what? Like, and he's like, liberal white women, and he starts like going on this tirade, and I'm sitting there like, that's me, and I'm like, well, why? And then I was like,
right, you're the white woman that he already dislikes anyway. You're the white woman who's been lying about things, lying about him, essentially.
Why are white women like? I mean, they're like examples from like mainstream media headlines where something he said, like there are some moments where we take Donald Trump out of context when we don't need to, and like he does sometimes not mean what we are saying that he means. I don't think President Trump needs help looking bad, but like there are times where the media really does do that. Like they'll take something that he's saying and they turn it into this like whole thing that it's like really not.
But it's interesting that the media is now morphed into liberal white women.
I mean, I'm part of it, so I can't say it's not that. Like, but that's how they identify it.
Right. It's you. It's you. You're the problem. It's always been you. The call was coming from inside the house because you were still home.
And I can't argue because I am a liberal white woman in mainstream media. So I can't be like, no, that's wrong. And I'm like, I am the problem they speak of, but like, what are we doing wrong?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's that list when he started talking about liberal white women and lies. And so he's reacting to the perceived witch hunt of men that we've decided are bad no matter what they say or do.
Is it a perceived witch hunt, or is it an actual witch hunt that's on the news and it's on television and you have like workshops and community group sessions and HR meetings about it? Shout out to Big Time with the $10 super chat. Women can commit abortions. They can give away their children at any time or sell their eggs to gay couples, but can't understand why men who respect life don't want to be with them. Yeah. And to make it worse, they have rights.
They have rights!
They have rights! So fucking what, man?
That's what's the trigger. The trigger is President Trump is bad no matter what. So even if he says or does something like neutral or like empathetic, because there are moments that we just don't see where he just like is being a normal grandpa. We don't consume that content and we don't prioritize it. It's out there.
Huh.
That's what they are exposed to. They see a more humanized version. And so which I didn't even know until I started talking to people on the conservative dating app, because I was asking, what do you read? And so it was the fact that Donald Trump, point blank, bad guy based on progressive ideals. That means no matter what he says, he's bad. And these guys identify with that feeling. They feel that they're bad no matter what they say or do, they will be bad forever. And they are triggered by that, like, we've rejected them forever. That's the...
Yeah. Yeah. Even the cow on the left thinks she's too good for the average white guy.
Deep insecurity.
So an attack on Trump kind of feels like an attack on
personal attack.
Them.
Wow. So now I want to just kind of go reflect to the beginning of this episode, and how this interview came about. Everything you've just shared today is now making more sense because I posted the video from the clip from that episode where we were just talking about how, like, for instance, this woman was sharing in a video that we shared.
Yes.
So we shared a video in a video where a woman said that when her boyfriend started consuming red pill content, their relationship dynamic completely changed.
Yes.
And the rest of the video is like pretty innocuous. It's kind of like, what's wrong? And then, my co-host said, like,
women hate red pill content for exactly that reason. It's like, I had them all cuck trained, and then he started watching YouTube videos and it just ruined all the cuck training.
Like, well, what's wrong with the white men? And I was like, I don't think it's just white men. I think there's anyway, the attacks that just started flying in by the thousands.
Yeah.
And I was like, where is this coming? Like, what are we saying
what's the trigger?
Yeah.
Like, what's triggering?
What just happened? And I could tell that it was because I said red pill, as if I can't look up what that is or look up the content.
It's interesting. Big time. He says, so you know what the problem is, right? This is what I meant earlier about they walk right up to the edge of the water and they're still dying of thirst, right? Like, you can kind of grasp the nature of the problem, but because they're women and women hate to hold accountability individually, at best they want to kind of share it with everybody else, but they don't ever want to be the sole blame. So these women aren't really willing to acknowledge that women have specifically been on a particular attack, like white women have been on a particular attack against white men. They refuse to acknowledge that and accept it onto simple terms, but they can kind of talk around it knowing it's there.
And that they see, I'm like, I've seen what you see. And what was interesting was how many people attacked. They didn't attack my husband. They just assumed I was single and in line for an abortion. Meanwhile, I'm married, 2 kids in. Like, it wasn't like, like I was like, okay, like, no one knew that I had a husband. It's just like they just assumed I was a single woman.
Yeah.
And I was like, so is my value diminished because I don't belong to a man?
I think it's like the thing of like they don't even know who they hate.
Well, they hate themselves. Any hatred of another person is you projecting self-hatred. Like,
why can't you ever take that and turn it back on yourself? Because feminism is all man hatred, though. And so it's like, well, if you hate men so much, it's probably because you hate yourself, right?
Whatever.
The accusation's the confession.
Yeah. Yes. It never, nothing anyone, like, even if you're saying something good about another person, it's something you're recognizing in another person is you recognize that in yourself and you're just projecting it out. But yeah, I mean,
Vera, how are you feeling now?
Yeah, it's a lot to go through. Are you okay?
I feel like we just had a trauma bonding experience here.
I am extremely, I feel very privileged and grateful that I was able to learn so much. And I've gotten the question, like, would you do it all again? And like, despite some of the more unsafe experiences, yes, I would do it all again. Because I actually think it's so important to expose yourself to people you disagree with.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we're asking people like that to do. Like, we're asking them to talk to people that they think they hate. So I feel like I was doing that in my own, like I was doing it first, basically. That's not really, I didn't like intentionally
that wasn't
do
the purpose.
that. Yes, that's not what I was intentionally doing. So I feel, I definitely feel like grateful for the experience. I feel like I learned a lot that I wouldn't have been able to learn from just like reading their social media. Like I'm also right now, I just feel excited to be like actually single and to not have to go on dates that are secretly like interviews. Like I'm excited to actually date. Like I think that,
she's 34. All she ever does is date. Your whole life has been a series of dates from 16 until now. That's all you've ever done is date. Can you do anything else? Like, Jesus Christ.
Reflected on all of my relationships and I just reflected on dating and what a relationship means to me the entire time that I was doing this. It's kind of an extreme environment to be doing that in, but
Yeah, I looked her up. She's 34 now. All she's ever done is date. Yeah, she looks old. 34 plus 1,000 cocks. You know, there's a weird facial mathematics. There's an algorithm that goes into aging. But she's 34 plus 1,000 cocks years old.
I definitely learned, like, throughout the experience that I am looking for, or I want a partner who takes turns leading. Like because I really thought of, like I really thought about that, dominant, submissive.
Pax Americana, yo, you're getting way too ahead of yourself, bro. You said, what's her at? I forgot what her real name is. I gotta look. Oh, her real name is Vera Papisova. That is a VERA PAPISOVA. All right, look her up. I don't have her at, Pax. Pax wants her at. $2 super chats isn't enough to make me go get out her details and hook y'all up. But I appreciate it, though. I appreciate it. You gotta find her Instagram on your own, bro. Vera Papisova. She's not bad looking for, you know, an aging 304. Beauty doesn't always fade immediately.
Like masculine, feminine energy dynamic that these guys were talking about. And I felt like sometimes I am feminine in the ways that they idealize, and then sometimes I'm not. And I think that men, like, there needs to be more of like a wider.
Yeah, we kind of skip right past that, American man. What is taking turns leading? This is the new modern scam that women are attempting to sell so that women can have maximized freedom and opportunity and minimized effort. And minimized effort and responsibility. While men, on the opposite hand, have minimized freedom and opportunity and maximized effort and responsibility. It's a total sham.
Wider range that's acknowledged, yeah.
And I think everyone can be a leader in a relationship, and it's not always, because I had moments of like fully trying to empathize with them, to like really try to understand them. Like it was my job to understand them, so I empathized with them as much as I possibly could, which I wouldn't do if I wasn't working. Like if I met a guy like that on the street, I would not take the time to like fully empathize with them. And
you know the problem with taking turns leading? Cars are only made with one driver seat and one steering wheel. And if I got to stop this car every time you feel like something, we never get anywhere. And then relationships die.
Given their beliefs about other people. And so what I learned from that is like, oh, I don't expect a man to do all of these things that these guys think a man is responsible for. Because, you know, the restaurant owner, for example, he is like super stressed about money. And like he was talking about, you know, he wants a homestead and a stay-at-home wife. And I'm like, can you afford that? Like I asked that question, like, can you afford that?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'm working on it. I'm working really hard on it. And he like really like explained his like 5 to 10 year financial plan. And he was really stressed. And I never actually had that kind of conversation with a man. Like I never really talked about money and financial planning in terms of like family planning.
Because all your dates are about fucking. Every single one. Every one of your dates. Your whole life since 16. All of your dates have been about fucking.
On a first date.
Right.
So like that point, I was like, okay, like we should be redefining like what is a family unit and what is everyone's job. Like sometimes it's okay, like it's okay for women to be leading financially. It's okay to take turns. Like, so that is where I'm at now. Is I feel like I'm excited to date, and I'm excited to know even what I'm looking for. And I also just think, I hope that by sharing some of these, I also don't think anyone should do what I did. Like I definitely
doesn't seem safe.
No, it's not. It's not safe. And I had I definitely was talking to experts about
How is it not safe? You literally picked guys off of dating sites and then you hung out with them and nothing bad happened to you. How is it not safe? Dating, are you basically telling me that dating is not safe? Or is it dating right-wing conservative men who are looking for women that they can marry and raise children with? That's not safe, right? Dating liberal guys who you maybe want to bang and I'll call you later, that's perfectly fine.
to create a safe process. This was like a work. This is a professional journalistic endeavor. And I had like Navy SEALs explaining to me how to have like a safety protocol. So I really was, it was like a professional, it was very, the process.
You consulted with Navy SEALs to go on a couple of dates. This is why, up until very recently, we just didn't give women rights. Everybody quietly understood you really weren't supposed to be doing that many things.
This was like there. I wasn't like,
there was a lot of things behind it.
Yes, there was a lot of energy went into making sure I was safe on my end. So I don't recommend doing this experiment. I kind of did it so that no one else would ever have to.
All right. So listeners, don't try this at home.
Yeah,
But
don't ever.
It's
But
nice
Vera,
that you came out with like a hopeful. Oh, sorry.
No, please.
Oh, I just wanted to.
Did you basically say listeners don't date conservative men at home? Nothing bad happened to her, but still don't do it? And then you wonder why conservative men have such a seething, burning hatred for you.
To say that it's like after hearing all that you're still hopeful about dating.
I feel so hopeful because I think it's just like a miscommunication that's like emotional. Like we need more emotional literacy.
Yeah.
And I don't think even liberal people know what they're looking for. You have flirting homework.
Yeah.
We're all learning how to connect.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
This isn't
You guys are going to get my book, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I love any homework that has to do with flirting, dating.
Well, my book is like a lot of storytelling. So it's not just a dating book, it's a prescriptive memoir. So, how did I become a matchmaker and who are my clients? And here's what I've learned. And here's all of this homework. Because there is a chapter where it's like, okay, I need you to write in the book now.
Yeah.
And so for all of my Audible purchasers, why don't you purchase the hard copy too?
No, I'm not reading your book about flirting. And you look like a fugly bitch who sits in a room and writes books. Jesus Christ, what are we doing? I'm glad this is about over. I'm almost resenting doing this show because it's just, they're starting to get to me now. Jesus. All right, look. And this is another thing that men are coming to hate about the modern world and why a lot of men are kind of making this reversion back to traditional concepts, traditional patriarchy. You might even hear the word biblical patriarchy. I think that biblical patriarchy is a word that this lady used to describe something one of her dates was talking about. And the reason for that is because somewhere along the way, we all got it in our heads that we should abandon every tradition, every norm, every social custom, basically tear down the entirety of the old world and recreate a new world. And we should build this world almost entirely around the principle of not offending women. And so now we have this world that we're attempting to build where we have to now rediscover how to do everything so that it never makes any woman uncomfortable for the slightest moment. And I think we should all die before that actually comes true. We will all die. We will burn in a giant nuclear conflagration before we all make that happen.
Yeah. And but it's so far though, I've had the people that I've read it at the advanced copies, I'm just getting like positive like emails from them. They're like, I just did the homework. And I'm like,
oh, that's great.
That's amazing.
So I can't wait for you to read it.
I have an answer to your earlier question about kind of to the what to ask or what to look for. So to figure out if you're dating a guy who's just like masking their emotional illiteracy
Yeah.
is how I'll describe it. I found that when I talked about how important romance was to me, like I love romance, and I, as a single
Oh yeah, I
person,
love
just in my own life,
women desperately want men to be like women so then they can win.
no one else involved. I live my life like almost like romancing myself. Like
Whimsically.
I'm on a date with myself all the time.
Yeah. I love
And
that.
these men were uncomfortable or totally clueless with the concept of romance, which to me is related to emotional intimacy. And so I would say I would be forward enough to ask, like, what is what's
Are you romantic with yourself? Are you emotionally intimate with yourself all the time? Like even in the shower? Is that what that special thing in the shower is for? Emotional intimacy with yourself? I have questions. I just have
what do you like to
questions.
do to be romantic? Or like, what does romance mean to you?
Wow.
Because I point blank, I asked this guy about like romance, and I was like, don't you believe that men deserve romance? And he really like was taken aback by that question, and he was like, I don't know anything about that. Like
Because
I need to
romance almost by definition is what men do to appeal to women. The things that women do to appeal to men are never described as romance or romantic, nor should they be, because I don't want to be romanced by a woman. The whole thing is off-putting as a concept. I remember one time, long time ago, it was a weird story too, but it's like, to this day, I just don't know how to deal with this idea. A girlfriend gave me flowers one time. Out of the blue, too. It wasn't like a celebration of anything, not a birthday, not a graduation, no milestone. It was just like, I was thinking about you and I bought you flowers, right? And it was like a bouquet of like some big, pretty blue somethings. They weren't roses, because I know what a rose is, but there's a million other kinds of flowers beside a rose, right? And she got me flowers. And I had to pretend to be like loving and gracious about the gift, and I just didn't know how to fake it. So I got these flowers on my kitchen table, and I'm just thinking about the whole thing, and I'm like, it's nice and all, but like, what am I supposed to suck your dick now? Should I be getting moist after this? I don't know what to do because you gave me flowers. Like, you want a blowjob? You want me to get on my knees, like right here in the kitchen? Like, what am I supposed to do? The whole thing is just fucking weird. I don't do, like, the guys, we don't have a concept of that. Because essentially romance is like extreme acts of service designed to appeal to the woman's emotions, and that just doesn't register in what men want from a woman. We would like, acts of service and, maybe even some extreme things, but none of the shit women consider romantic, right? And then most of the things we would ask you to do are like, frankly, sexual. It's either, something cooking or something sexual. Can you make a steak and bring it to me butt naked? Like, no plate or nothing. Just cook the steak, put it on your raw hand, and then walk across the room butt naked. Like, that's the kind of goofy shit men would come up with.
to figure out how to support a family. So it's like they don't even believe that they deserve romance. And I mean, with some of these beliefs, like maybe wait.
It's really hard to accept love when you're unwilling to be emotionally vulnerable.
Yeah, it's hard to accept love when you like hate yourself as much as these guys do. But yeah, I would say that asking about romance, that's like an emotionally intimate question.
Yeah, that's a great
and
question.
If someone isn't even comfortable enough to like in sex ed, you learn, like for young people, they say if you can't talk about sex with someone, you can't have sex with them.
Yeah.
Don't have sex with them. And that
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about sex. You know what? We tried this in the Black community. It's not really the thing that you guys think it is.
might mean if you are uncomfortable talking about sex, you're not ready to have sex,
right?
Even as an adult. And I think with romance and like love and intimacy, if you can't answer that question, like what is romantic to you, or how important is romance? What does romance look like to you? If you can't answer that comfortably, you're not ready. You have to go figure that out.
I love that. I love that. What a way to end this episode. It's really hopeful, but it's also like homework.
Yeah.
Vera.
Here's homework. If you think he needs flowers, give him a blowjob. If you think he needs a hug, give him a hand job. If he ain't got enough money, get yourself a goddamn job. How about that? All of these things you can do to help. All of these simple things you can do to help. Well, anyway. We've come to the end. I think they're running out of dumb things to say.
Right. I'm going to include the link to your original article in the show notes, but if people wanted to follow you.
Yeah, dumb things to say. Anyway. Thank you guys for watching. I think we learned some things today. We already knew women are crazy. Actually, we didn't learn all that much today. Now that I think about it, we just had a good time watching the train wreck. It wasn't even all that educational now that I look back on it. Sometimes you just need walking examples to make the argument real. I was thinking about this after I watched the show earlier this morning. I was like, you know what? If you really just boil it down to its like simplest concepts and the fewest moving parts and all that, feminism is just basically a series of excuses for women to do whatever it is they want to do. That's all feminism boils down to. You don't need to think about rights and freedoms. It's just excuses for women to do anything they've ever felt like doing. But hey, American Man. Shout out to American Man with the $2. He says, I kind of hate you, Hood. That was almost violent. Hey, listen, I got a double header planned for today. We're going to talk about some more heavier topics, some racial issues, the Carmelo, Anthony, Austin Metcalf thing, the whole dueling rallies or allegedly dueling rallies. Both of them were really a bust, but I did at least kind of want to give nod to that whole event. Plus, it'll be a better opportunity to have a panel discussion. We can maybe have a more lively panel. Probably take some of that over to Rumble too. I haven't really gone Rumble exclusive lately, but yeah, we'll come back in a couple of hours with a second act or keep this doubleheader alive. Let everybody go have an Easter dinner, lunch, however it is you do it in your family. I'm going to go on an Easter egg hunt myself. You guys take care. I will be back later on and we can get into a race war. Shout out to Carmen. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat for the double header. Yes, I absolutely will be back now. Now that you guys have put your bid in early, Carmen is putting in pre-super chats for the show to come up later. I'm definitely locked in. I got nothing planned for the day. I'm going to go find me some Easter eggs and then I'll be back. I will catch you guys later. Appreciate you so much. Gonna have us a little racial drama later on. We're gonna get all the passions flowing up, but we're gonna go pray first. We're gonna go, meditate on Jesus and all that stuff. I'll catch y'all later, man. Thank y'all so much for watching. Appreciate the help. Appreciate the support. We will be back later. Take a break. Enjoy your families. Worship. Praise Jesus. See you later.
It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done.